machine knitting and mixed media combined today. Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be experimenting with a little scrap of machine knitted lace here. It's from Millennium lace design collection that I have been working on using my college designs from when I attended the CENTRA MACHINE KNITTING at Cardonald College. So the plan was to use my stitch patterns and actually design some garments around them. So this is a sample here that I knitted on my brother 881. And yeah, you'll see there it dropped some stitches. It can be a combination of the tension isn't right or my sponge bar needs renewed, which is probably it's my sponge bar. But at the moment I can't find the packet of spare sponge bars that I have. I don't know where I've put them. So I've gathered a few things together. So this is from a sample of wallpaper. So I've cut this out. This is 10 centimetre square wooden coaster. You can get packs of these from Amazon quite inexpensively. I think I got a pack of 40 of them for $9.99. So what I've done here is I have put a layer of black gesso just to give it a base to start it off. So I've used black gesso, and that's the Pebble one. When you're doing mixed media, etc., I do recommend that you put some gesso on. The inks and the paints will flow a lot easier, and it gives you a good key to your surface. Now, I've had a look through my stamp sets. This one has got a knitted texture, because I want to create a background design. And then I always like to recycle. This was my version 1 of the bee pattern lace. I ended up adjusting it slightly and angling the lace transfers in a slightly different position on some of the lace. So this is a card that I wouldn't use in my knitting machine now. It was cut on my brother's Scan and Cut. So what I'm going to do is today I'm going to use it as a stencil, and also have the option of cutting off sections and using it in this mixed media project. So the colour scheme I'm going for today is black, white, pinks. So I've got 2 pink, I've got paint and I've got ink. So I'm going to experiment and just go with the flow and see what happens. I also have some gilding flakes. I got these at the range quite a while ago. They were like probably $1.99 or something. They were not expensive. With gilding flakes, I recommend that you decant them into a tub, because once you open your packet of gilding flakes, they'll go everywhere and they'll expand. So I've just used takeaway food tub basically. Right, so let's see. So yeah, I'm just going to go with the flow. I've got a rough idea of what I'm doing here, so I am just going to go with the flow and see what happens. Right, so I've got a rough idea of my layout. I kind of want to put this here, and I like the idea of actually having the hole there, kind of like that. And I'm thinking putting the butterfly there. So with mixed media, it's a matter of layering up interest and design. So I've got these, I've got the punch card, but I've also got all these little circles left as well. So I'm considering maybe sprinkling them on at the end. So the first thing is to create some background. I'll just set this to the side. Right, so I'm going to use this stamp to create some backgrounds. I don't really need to put this on a stamp pad. I don't want it to have the perfect heart shape. I want it just to have little bits of imprint of the knitted pattern, stitch pattern. Right, so I'm going to try it first with Versa Magic. It's a multi-surface chalk ink and the colour is Cloud White. Now there's a possibility that if I used my glue gel over this, it might actually bleed. So I've got other coasters there, so I'm just going to try it. And again, with stamping, you always take the stamp pad to the stamp. So I'm just going to go like that. As I said, I don't want it all over, so I'm just going to go like that and just put it there. So with mixed media, it's all about creating interest. Oh yes, I like that. So it's all about creating interest in the background first. I absolutely love that effect. So I'm just going to move the stamp at different angles and kind of stamp off the edge. So yeah, I'm really liking that. So as I'm going along, I will be adding and gluing things to it, so you're not going to see all of this eventually. But the thing with mixed media, as you're going along, you do tend to change your mind. So nothing is set in stone, so you just go with the flow basically. And I can also overstamp it. I haven't used that bit there. So yeah, I don't mind if I've got bits that don't have any on it. As I said, I want a kind of not a perfect look. And yeah, I'm quite happy to overstamp that. As I says, you won't see this all at the end. And even though I intend to put my lace there, I might change my mind as I go along. So I'm still going to stamp the other areas as well. Really like this stamp. Comes from this stamp set here I got many years ago. It's a Joanna Sheen stamp set. And it's knitted. It's a knitted and cross stitch. Take this out because I'm aware there's a glare. So it's also got sentiments, I love knitting, and knit your cares away. I'm considering maybe putting I love knitting on this mixed media project at the end, but I'll see how I go. As I said, I'm never too sure how this is going to turn out. So the thing about mixed media is there isn't any rules. You can just play along and see what happens. And if you don't like something, you can paint over it, or you can put something on top of it. So it's quite a forgiving project, to be honest, when you do mixed media. I also do art journaling. I haven't done that for a while. I have a knitting journal. And what I do sometimes with the photographs of the things that I've knitted, that I've put on my Ravelry. So I just print the pictures off, and I use an old Victorian theme diary that I've got. The artwork on it is really nice with roses, etc. So I use that. So this area here is a bit open, but I don't mind that. I think I'm going to just leave that. I'm not going to overlay that. So I'm really pleased at how this chalk ink has turned out. So I'm quite happy about that. So always put the lid back on and ensure it's on properly on your stamp block. I always keep, when I'm stamping, keep a damp cloth or baby wipe handy, and you can just wipe your ink, so you can wash it under hot soapy water at the sink later on. And this is a good way of keeping my stamp clean. The weather is quite hot, so the ink is going to dry. Some inks I have are permanent. This one, because it's pigment ink, should wash off. I'll just set that to the side and leave my stamp to dry. Right, okay, so we've got, so that's the first layer done now. So I also want to use this, so that's where I was thinking about the pink. For inking through this, I'm thinking probably the paint is going to be better, so I'm going to use this paint. I just want to create this effect, and again I'm going to put it on the full coaster because I might change my mind about where I'm putting the lace, the knitted lace. Now if you don't have a palette, you can use your recycle stuff. This is a tub for noodles. Right, so I'm only going to put a little bit of paint on. I don't need a lot, so I'm only stenciling through here. So I've got stencil brush here, so I'm going to do this with a dry effect. Just check that ink's dry. Yes. I want a pink dot to be there to start off with, so I'm just gonna, I think I like the two there because I'm aware I might end up covering quite a bit of this design. Ooh, I like the idea of having the two lines of dots there. I think I'll just go for one line of dots. So I'm just using the holes to actually look through to position where the dots are going to be. Just checking. Right, so yeah, I quite like the look of having one line of dots there. So I'm going to just take this, and the paint's a bit dry, so I'm just going to go like that. So let's see, put this on so it's on camera. So it's got a little bit dried bit. And again, it's handy to have baby wipes. Okay, so I'm just going to stencil through this. I'm not sure how it's going to be. Yeah, so we've got enough pink going on. It is showing up. I wasn't sure if it would show up under the black, but it is. So if you don't want your stencil to move, you can use a bit of tape if you want. But I'm not going to be precious with it, it's going to be fine because it's just little dots. So with stenciling, you can do a pouncing motion or you can go like that. I want the colour to be as strong as possible, so today I'm just using a pouncing motion. And I will also use this stencil again, and I can even use the actual bit of card here that's cut. I could even use that as a project. I could die cut it or just cut it into strips, etc. So I'm not going to waste this. So I quite like the idea of actually using the lace stitch pattern that's some more the lace stitch pattern that's going to be on the knitting. I quite like that connection. Right, so I'm just going to make sure it's still in position. So this is just creating some interest and some depth as well. And as I say, some of this will probably get covered up and you won't see it all. That's just the way with mixed media. It's a really good technique for like going with the flow. There isn't really rules with it, what you can and can't use. I had thought about the idea of not wasting this card and using it in some way, and I thought I could do a mixed media project with it. There we go. So let's lift it. Oh, I really like this line of dots here. So let's see, hold on the camera. I really like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a line of dots all the way along, so it creates like a border. So this is going to be pretty quick drying because I'm using like a dry brush effect, plus it's quite warm today. So this little dot here I'm going to use as a guide. There we go, so that's there. Now with this I'm going to end, I would end up with two, so I'm going to use that as the line, as a level line, and bring it there. There we go. I'm looking through here to make sure it's in the right position. Right. So I quite like the look of the little dots, to be honest. I can hold my hand in position, lift it up. Right. Clearly I need more paint. Set my brush here. I always tend to put less paint on my palette than I think I'm going to need. Especially in this hot weather, the paint can dry out quite quickly. There we go, that's it coming through now. There we go. And it doesn't matter if it's straight, to be honest. I'm not bothered if it's straight or not. It's just to add a little bit of decoration. So again, I'm looking through the holes to see what it is, lining it up. Put some paint. Stencil through. I quite like that. Yeah, it's forming kind of like a border around it. Again, it's just adding a bit of detail. I really like pink. One of my favourite colours. Yeah, so as you can see there, the paint dries pretty quickly when you're doing the stencil effect because it's a dry brush. So yeah, so now I've got a little bit more interest. I've got knitted stitch backgrounds and then I've got the little dots. Right, and now you need to decide which orientation I'm going to go. And I think because that love heart is that way, I'm just going to stick with this orientation and have it this way. So I'm just going to leave that to the side to dry, and again, I won't waste that. I'll use it for something else. I'll use it as a stencil again, or I'll cut it out. I'll set that over there. And I don't think I'm going to be using this again, so I'm just gonna clean my brush. This jar that I'm using, recycled it. It's in one of my other videos, I think, and that was with alcohol ink. However, don't wash the jar. The alcohol ink does come off. You need to seal it. There we go. As I say, at the end I'll take these all to the sink. But you can see there's still some pink in that. As It's handy to have the water with you so you're not to and froing in and out the kitchen. Right, so that's that section done. Right, so let's have a look. So, going to just check where we are on the camera. Yeah, we're pretty central. So I'm just going to check and see how this butterfly looks. So even like that, it would look quite pretty, but I want to add more. So, let's see. I like that hole. I think it's quite like, oops, that was my head there, button the camera. So yeah, I like how this line curls, and I like the actual hole. So let's see. And yeah, I'm probably going to allow this to like curl like that and place the butterfly probably higher up, because I'm going to have something down here. As I said, I've got those stamps, and the other thing I have is this sticker set that a friend gave me, and it's got the word Millennium. So because the lace pattern that I'm making, I'm going to call it Millennium, because it was designed based around the word Millennium and the year 2K. So we used the letters and the numbers for the design process at college. So I'm quite liking how that looks. So this is going to be an experiment. I've never done this before. I don't think knitted bits of fabric are like a traditional mixed media thing, a go-to mixed media thing. So this is total experimentation. So I'm going to use my People Brilliant Gloss Gel, and that's by Studio. Always give it a shake first. Now this, you can use this as a glue and also a glaze over it. So I'm going to use it as a glue first of all, and then I might actually put it on the knitting to like make it hard and stiff. But as I said, it's just an experiment, so I'll see what happens as I go along. Right. So I want some of the lace pattern to be shown, but I still want that hole there. Right, so let's see how that's going to look. See, so it wouldn't show up. That's an option, but no, I really like that hole. I really like that hole. Right, so let's see. So if I'm putting that there, so what I do is you like addition stuff. So yeah, if I put that there, you're still going to see part of that hole, so that's fine. So this, if you've not done cut and sew before, just take a deep breath and do it. It's not suddenly going to unravel before your very eyes, so just cut it. There we go. And these little bits I'll use for another project. Right, so as you can see, it's not totally unraveling on me, it's fine. Right, and I also like this strand here. I've cut it. I also like that strand kind of going across. So you can use your strands of yarn as well. Right, so it's about halfway. So I'm just going to put that to the side and use my glue gel. Now, when you're using your glue gel, always make sure that you clean your brush afterwards. Glue gel is permanent and also waterproof, I think, as well. So I would definitely recommend, oh, I've got some on my fingers, so definitely recommend washing your brush straight away. That's how I always have a jar of water there. Right, so I don't need a palette to apply this. I'm literally just going to apply it. Oops, that's probably too much, we'll see. And what I do is the wee bit that comes out the lid, I just take it off with my brush, because if you've got any here, it's going to dry and make it harder to open. So, so I'm just going to put a layer here. As I said, I probably got a bit too much. that's not a problem. So I'm just going to go on that. Probably going to use that in the top. You don't want thick blobs. So I'm just going to lay this lace on in place. And as I said, I want this edge to kind of curl just there. So I'm just going to pat this down with my finger. And I want this to be attached as well. So I'm just going to decide where I want it. I kind of want it like that. And again, while you're doing the process, you can bring it across and see what bits are going to be covered up. Put it there. This loop isn't going to be shown so much. So I'll just bring it across and put it there. Right. Right, so we've got some there and some there. Okay. So as I say, I've never done this before with this. So this will actually hold, it dries clear. So this will actually hold the knitting in place, and it will hold the yarn in place as well. So I'm just going to put some here. I don't know that I want it to have, you can just apply it to your brush like this. Just squeeze gently. There we go. So it will make the knitting hard. I don't know if that's the look I'm going for. But yeah, I'm just going to put some on and see. Whoops. A little bit too much, so I'm just going to spread that out. And I want this yarn to stay in place. So I'm just going to use this. So I'm just going to do a dabbing thing. And I want this to go back here. So actually putting the gel on the side of the yarn will help it roll and stay in place where I actually want it to be. So it'll kind of stiffen it a wee bit. But I want this edge to be quite soft. There we go. So this will take a few minutes to dry, even though it's quite hot. You can speed up the process by using a heat gun. So I'm just pressing this strand down to attach it. So I just need a tiny bit more here. Right, so that should hold in place now. So I'm just going to let that dry and I'll be back in a few minutes. Hi, so that's me back. It's been over an hour and the gel's still not dry yet. So I'm going to very, very carefully use my heat gun. Now, this is acrylic yarn, so it might melt. So I'm just going to give it a once over. It's mainly this bit here that's still wet. The edge is pretty good, but it's just this area here. That bit's okay. So I'm just going to give it a very quick blast with a heat gun. You could use a hairdryer if you don't have one of these. So I'm going to move it up and down briskly. If I was heat embossing, I would keep it in the same place. But because this is yarn that could in fact melt, I want to just gently go like that. And I'm going to, that's it, it's starting to dry already. There we go. I'm going to be putting gilding flakes. I've got silver gilding flakes. I'm going to be putting these on. So I want this to be dry for me to apply the glue that's suitable for the gilding flakes. Right, so I think that's going to be okay. That's a lot better. So it didn't need a lot. It was literally a minute at most just to get that bit dried. I'll just check where in the centre of the camera. Right, so you might have noticed I've got bits of paper at the side. This is another project I've been working on, but I was keeping these out because a lot of the little scraps of paper that are trimmed off, they're all pink, which ties in with my theme. So I'm possibly going to be putting one of them there. I'll see. We'll see how it looks. So the idea I'm thinking, let's see, there's different ones. This one has already got like a polka dot effect, so it would match. When you're doing mixed media, it's more pleasing for the eye. If you choose to use a shape, for example, I'm using circles here. So if I chose to use, excuse me, a circle again, so those little dots match that, and then put that there. So let's see how that looks. I'm not so keen on this bit here. See if put that over there. Yeah. So this bit is kind of hard and crispy now because it's got the gel on it, but I can still manipulate it. So I don't really want that black bit. So I'll maybe have this. So let's have a look. I don't mind that, but I'm not too sure about it at the moment. So I'm just going to have a play around. So the glue I'm going to use, because I'm gluing it onto the knitting, I'm still going to use the glue gel. I'm going to put a little bit on that makeshift palette. And if I want to use this palette again, I'll need to make sure that I wash this off. If I leave it on, it will be on there permanently. I'm just going to get my brush and put my glasses back on. Right. So before I glue it, I'm going to decide how far up I want the paper ribbon to be. And then using the stamps that are already there. Right. So I'm going to have it at that level. So that's that second dot there. So it helps if you do that. Right, so I just need a little bit of glue. The more glue you put on, the longer it takes to dry. But do remember, this is going to dry clear. Right, so I want the dots to be on the outside. And there's that second dot there. So I'm just going to place there, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of layer on top. There we go. And I'll let that dry and do the same for the other one. because I'm going to make sure there's enough glue on here. Right, so again I want to just eyeball it to roughly be the same as that again, the polka dots to the outside. Right, that's going to look about right. Press that down. Right, I'm going to have to put up like a blob. And the texture of this is kind of coming through. Because I'm putting this on in it, and I need to make sure there's plenty of glue on this. And as you can see here, it's lifting off. So again, I'll let that dry for a few minutes. I'm just going to use my finger to press it down. So when that's dry, I will remove the excess at the edge. I'm just going to press that in. So yeah, this is definitely needs to be a speeded up part of the video. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It's like, it don't matter. It's crunchy. It's crunchy. Just going to wash my brush again. I don't want to leave that gel on there because it would be permanent. And I can also put a bit of water on there to clean my palette as well, so that I can reuse that makeshift palette, because this would dry on permanently. It is, while it's wet, it's water soluble. There we go. Right, so this one here is dry. Okay, so this is a sanding block. It's actually for using with a blending stump. So this will do. So I'll get a much softer edge here. So if you're gluing tissue or paper onto a wooden box, etc., you can use sandpaper instead, and you'll get a much softer edge. So you just go like that. It's almost there. So you don't saw it, you go in the one motion, the one direction. Right, so you can see here how it's really smooth. If I'd have cut that, it wouldn't have been so smooth and perfect on the line. This is a technique that's widely used in napkin art. And there we go. So that's a beautiful smooth edge. Here it's still a bit damp. It's a bit wet. So I'll use the heat gun again. And again, I'm going to move it about so that my yarn doesn't melt. A little bit of the pink came off onto my finger because it was still wet, but that's okay, I don't mind that. Going for a grungy look, I'm actually going to be putting some more layers on, so that bit I can cover up. So with mixed media, nothing's a mistake, it's generally a happy accident. You can cover it up. It's just like the card making. If you make a mistake with card making, you get a dirty inky mark on. When you make a card, etc., you can put a butterfly or a gem or a bow or something on it. Same with mixed media. You can just cover it up. It's getting quite hot here, so I'm going to let that cool for a minute. Let's see how it is. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave that just now because it's still a bit moist. So the next part is getting the butterfly ready. Now when you get artwork with butterflies and you've got the little antennae, they're very hard to cut out on paper because it's so thin. So I'll give you a few suggestions. Today I'm going to be using, I make jewellery, so these are jewellery making supplies. These are eye pins that I've trimmed, that I've used and then taken the bead off. So I can't really use them again. They're a bit bent, but they would make ideal antennae. So that's what I'm going to be using today. However, the other options for recycling are piano wire. You can also use guitar string. You can use the bristles from a hard bristle brush. Just make sure when you pull the bristle out of your brush, like trim it right as close as possible to the plastic. Make sure you wash it first, obviously, because it's going to be dirty. The other thing that you could use is a dog whisker, a couple of dog whiskers, but don't pull them out your dog, please. Just if you see one, keep it, and you know you'll be able to use it when you're making the butterfly. Other option, if you're a jewellery maker, is to use tiger tail, which is a wire thread basically. So I'm going to use these today. The butterfly I'm going to have raised up anyway. So looking there, I'm going to trim a bit of foam pads to go in that area there, but I also want that foam pad to be large enough to catch the two bits of metal. So I'm probably, let's trim it down. Okay. So what I want to do is to place this in between. So I'm going to take these two, I'm just going to place them on here. Now this is a sticky foam pad. Make sure they're laying flat, and I've got both of them, the loop pointing out the way. Right, so I'm just going to move it until I'm happy with the positioning. And we'll see how that looks. I want them closer together. And then coming out that way. So if you've got jewellery making tools, you could bend them and curve them if you want. Okay, so right, I'm just going to check the width there, that's going to fit. That's not going to show, so I'm just going to centre this here, centre them there, and I can tweak them a little bit later on with my pliers and bend them out a little bit if I want to. So that's them jammed in there. If you don't have foam pads, you can use a hot glue gun to put them in place. Now I'm not going to, when I'm putting this down at the end, I'll remove the sticky pads and place it there, place the butterfly there. Right, how's this going? Yep, that's it, hard enough now. So it's just the one edge. So again, take the sanding stump. I'm going to trim this because it's going to get in the way. Right, so we'll see how we go here with this, because I do have the knitting there. Yeah, knitting's not going to affect it, it's still going to come off. Nearly there. Right, I don't want to pull that, it's stuck on the bit of yarn there, so rather than pull that and unravel any knitting, I'm just going to snip that. But I quite like the slightly frayed look of it. Right, so that's us. We've got the 2 bits there, 2 recycled ribbon slips. Okay, so if you're using a sanding block, I recommend that you give your table a little wipe so you don't get that grit. So there's a bit of grit onto your project. Right. Okay, I'll put that to the side. Right. So before I add this topper on, I'm going to have a think about what else I want to add onto it. Like you can already see there, I could put it there, I could put it there with the dimensions, and then you can curve the wings up like that. Put it there. I'm going to hold that up to see how it looks. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to play around until I get the positioning that I like. I could even put it there. If I put it there, that would leave that area free for me to add something else if I wanted. So the original plan was to put it like that. I quite like that 3D dimension, and you get like a shadow effect under there. So I want to add some more colour to this. So I'm going to get some markers and see maybe a bit of ink. Okay, so I think I'm going to add some pink ink to this rather than markers. I just want a slight haze of pink around the edge. So using this scrap paper from junk mail, and I'm going to use the foam to create a much softer look. Right. And what I'm going to do is see if I go in a circular motion, because I don't want it to be solid blocks of colour. So if I go in a circular motion like that, and then I go in like that. Let's see. Yeah, I quite like how that looks, and the ink's metallic. My original plan was just to go around the edge, but as I say, with mixed media you can change your mind as you go along. So I'm actually going to colour that in pink. If I used a marker, I wouldn't have got that translucent look. So again, I'm doing it on the paper and then taking it here because I don't want a strong look. And I can go back to the paper because it's shiny, it's not fully dried in. And I just keep adding the ink until I'm happy with the colour. Yeah, I really like that pink and how that's turned out. There we go. So it's got a beautiful sheen to it, that ink. And it's translucent enough so we don't lose any of the detail on the actual print. Right, the excess ink, I'm just going to go like that. One thing right off. You can wash these if you want to. As I say, you can just have different foam pads for each colour theme. And again, this paper can be ripped up and collaged. So you really don't need to waste anything. Right, so I'm really liking how that butterfly's turned out, and that ink, as I said, gives it a slight shimmer. Right, get this out of the way, and I'll need to wipe my hands again. Right, so at every stage of this mixed media process, I'm going to addition it again and see how it looks. I just discovered there was some paint on my table. Just wash off like that. There we go. See that? Right. Let's have a look and see. Oh, I really like it with the pink. That looks 100% better than it did without. So before I attach that, I will shape the butterfly. So you can use different things. You can use a pen or a pencil, paintbrush, you can use a scoring tool, just something that's going to give it a curve like that, and you just go like that and you flick. This is a technique you would use. I'm going to have this end curling in. This is a technique you would use if you were doing 3D flowers. So I can, paper and card has like what you would call a memory. So wherever I shape it, it's going to move. Let's see how that's going to look. I quite like that curling under. Also what I'm going to do is, to get more movement here, I'm just going to snip in just a little bit, and I'm going to do that on both sides, and I'm using the lines actually on the butterfly as like a guide. Right. So now I can lift that up, and it's separating a bit more. And you can see how it's becoming more 3D now. Yeah, so I'm really liking the look of that. Liking how it's going. Right, so let's see. Again, I'm going to check how this Millennium is going to go in here. Yeah. Now the plan was to put some flakes on this. So I think I'm probably randomly going to put some flakes on, rather than deciding where I'm going to put them on. I'm also wondering about whether to put any flakes on the actual butterfly or not. I don't think so. If I put flakes there on that edge, you wouldn't see that, which I was thinking of maybe putting flakes on the edge. I think having this hole here, I'm probably definitely going to put the glue there. Now for the gilding flakes, you can get special glue for gilding flakes. You can use a tacky glue, a glue that's not going to dry 100%. It goes clear, but it's still tacky. That's the kind of glue that you want to use. So what I'm using here is stencil glue. This doesn't dry, it stays tacky. So the gilding flakes will stick onto this. So this is the first time I'm using the stencil glue with the gilding flakes. So I'm going to look and see what areas is going to be covered. So basically there's going to be an area there, and then with the butterfly. So I'm just randomly, I think, going to apply this with the brush. This is the time that if you've got any air conditioning or fans on, to turn them off, because the gilding flakes will just go everywhere. So with this, if it doesn't flow out, you can put a pin in it. We'll see how we go. That's coming out. coming out fine. So I don't think I'll need a lot. With glue, I always recommend that you wipe any excess glue off the nozzle and put the lid back on. Now let's see, I've got different paint brushes here. I'm going to use this one to brush the gilding flakes off with, I think. I might need a harder brush, I'll see. I haven't done gilding for years. This one's quite thin. Probably this one, and I'll just get like random blotches. Definitely want a bit there. Some here, some here. So this glue again, I don't want to put it on very thickly, and I'm just going to go this and just randomly put bits of glue. One thing to be aware of, it's quite hard to get this off your brush. So as soon as I've done what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and wash my brush. I do recommend that you use old brushes. Right, so I'm just generally just putting some there, and I can come back and add more glue as I go along. Now you can see here it's white at the moment, so I'm going to wait until that goes clear. Meanwhile, I'm going to wash this brush immediately with hot soapy water to get this off. Back in a minute. Okay, so that's been a few minutes now, and as you can, let's see if you can see, yeah, you can see it in the light here. So you can see how it's clear now. That is tacky. So as I said, with no fans, no airflow in the room whatsoever, open your gilding flakes very, very carefully. They also react to static. So you can see they're clinging to the lid. So I'm just gonna place these on. There we go. And if you get any missed bits, you can just, as you use the flakes and brush it off, it'll stick. I haven't used these for years. So yeah, I'm still feeling there's like tacky bits there. I'm going to lift it up in a second in the light and just check and make sure that I've got all the bits. There's some tackiness there. I'm recording. Alright, so I'm going to put some here. Okay, so that's me, got some bits from the lid. As you can see, it will just generally just float around. Ooh, that's a really big flake. Right, so I'm just going to tilt this in the light to see where I've put it. I'm not sure how the gilding flakes are actually going to come off the knitted areas and the texture areas, but we'll see how we go. Right, I'm not sure where exactly I put it, so I'm just going to press it in. That bit's dry. So I'm just feeling around with my finger just now to see if there's any more tacky areas that I haven't covered. There we go. And there's a bit down here. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to end up with here. What I do know is that I'm going to have to go and wash my hands in a moment. Right, okay. So you don't need to wait for the glue to dry any further. It's not going to dry any further. I'd recommend you keep your mouth shut while doing this because they're all floating. Oh, just discovered there's a bit up there. Okay, so let's put that there. So you can rub it off with your fingers. That seems to be okay. Or you can rub it off with a brush. You rub it off onto your tray or your storage container. I'm just using this brush, maybe a hard bristled brush would be better. You can see little flakes coming off there. Not as bad as glitter. But yeah, you can be rough with it. It's gonna stay where I put where I put the glue. And the other bits will come off. Right. I'm liking the look of it. So any little stray bits, I'm going to brush them off. Okay, and I can use any excess that's on my table. I can just brush that back into the pot. Right. I'm going to have a look and see how my design's going to decide if I want to add any more gilding flakes. Right. Quite liking the gilding flakes on here. I think I want to quite like the patchy look there. So I think I'm going to put some more there and there. So it's kind of like an animal print effect now. So you'll still see some of the dots in the knitting. But yeah, I think I want to add more there and there. This I think has got enough. The knitting part I think has got enough on it. So yeah, there and there I'm going to add some more glue. And before this stays pretty permanent on my fingers. The stencil glue is very tacky. You can put it on the stencil and like months later that stencil is still tacky as long as you put it on like a bit of acetate or something like that. Right, yeah, I think I am. This time I'm going to apply the glue where I want it and spread it out. So I wanted it there, some more here, and some there. I think I'm just going to put a little bit there, a little bit remember to wipe it. I nearly forgot. Because that was my good brush. I've had that since I was at college, over 26 years ago. It's a long time. So I'm using a cheap bristle brush. Comes in kids painting sets. So I'm just going to spread that glue out a little bit. Kind of almost like an animal print I'm kind of going for here. And yeah, you still see the dots. I'll put a wee bit there. And remember, I put some on the edge, so I'm just going to spread that out. And again, I'll be back in a minute. We'll let that dry. I'm going to put the gilding flakes where it's glossy. But that bit's not. This bit here was where the glue gel was, because I'm using the glossy glue gel. So I'll just move that in the centre. So again, just taking the flakes and just pressing it on. I don't worry about putting too much on because it'll all come off. Whatever the excess, it'll come off. So again, I'm just rubbing my finger down here, and the excess here, I'm just going to take it and just rub it in. So again, I'm actually just going to use my finger and rub it off. Right. This bit needs some more, so I'm just going to leave that for a moment. Right. So let's start to rub the excess off. I recommend you don't talk while you're doing this. And again, anything that's left on the table, I'm just going to go like that and put them back in. So it's always best every so often to clean the table up. So when I wanted the sandpaper in with this. Okay. Looks like I'm finished with the flakes, so I'm just going to put the lid back on. And just press down. There we go. Okay, so I'll put that back on. And as you can see here, the pink is a slightly different shade of pink. I'm just going to clean my hands. Yeah, you can see this, the pinks is slightly different. When you're doing mixed media, use different colours. You can use, like I've got candy that's not as bright a pink. So you can use different shades of pink. I'm using pink here. You can use different shades to add interest. Silver and pink, it's kind of black and grey. They're quite a classic colour combination. Right. I'm just going to wipe my table as well because there are still bits of gilding flake everywhere. It's not quite as bad as glitter, but I could see it getting everywhere if you don't clean up after yourself. So yeah, I'm trying to keep my table clean recently. Every time I do something, I'm trying to clean up afterwards and like tidy up whatever project I'm working on so that I have room do another project later on. Right, let's have a look now and see where we are. Right, okay. Check, you can see that in the centre. So this is going to go there. So I'm just going to see how it's looking. I'm really liking the gilding flakes. You can still see some of the dots. I can see some of the knitted stamp coming through. I like the highlighted bit with the foil in that hole, and just tiny little bits there. I just really like that in the silver. So the next part is to put this on here. I've done a foam pad. If I find it's coming off, I will use hot glue, but for the moment I'm just going to use a foam pad and see how we go. And before I add this, I'm going to get the paintbrush again, and I'm just going to flick it out. There we go. And also what I'm going to do is, we've got the body there, so I'm just going to go like that, and then like that. So I'm folding it slightly upwards, and then I'm curving it. So this adds a little bit more dimension. Okay, so I'm probably just going to put about there. And I can tweak it until I'm happy with how that looks. And because I've cut that there, I can give it some more dimension at that bit. Right, foam pad seems to be sticky enough to hold it. So the next part is the sticker. Now we've got 3D dimension there, so it's probably going to be better to add the sticker onto a piece of card. If I didn't, it would be bumpy. So if I put a piece of card on and then I use foam pads, that would work quite well. So I tend to have all my bits of scrap card around here, so I'm just going to look and see if I can get a bit thicker. Right, that bit's going to be thick enough. So I'm just going to put the sticker on, and then I'll trim it with my guillotine. Now these do have a bit of body, but it would still show there. So I'm just creating a little frame around it, and this will also help it to be seen. So you can cut it by hand or cut it with the guillotine. So that's the sticker done. And bring this back. Hold it. Oh, see, I really like that. Now, the difference here and there is that's got the knitting, so it's slightly raised. This will need 2 layers of foam pad, and that will just need 1. And the middle doesn't need any foam pad at all. So I'm just going to trim these. It needs to be thin enough. So I'm just going to trim this. Just make sure each size, yeah. So literally just going to put a bit of foam pad at either end. So say you can use hot glue if you want. I'm just using foam pads today. Okay. So I have options here. Do I place it like that, or do I put it in the centre? Probably I'm going to put it in the centre so it looks like a specimen. There I don't like it. So about here it's going to be fine, yeah. So remember I said 2 foam pads on this side. So that bit's going to be too thin. I'll end up giving a sticky bit. So I'm just going to make sure it's about the same thickness. If I had put a narrow bit of foam pad over this, it would have left a sticky bit that wasn't covered up. Right, so I've got 2 layers and 1 layer there. So that's just going to pop that up. And then I'm just going to eyeball it and place it in the middle. Oh, I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I'll just hold it up to the camera so you can see it. So you can see the shimmer of the ink. You can still see the knitted texture peeking through. You've got the dots from the punch card that I was using as a stencil. Little paper strips there from some cards that I'm making at the moment. I had to trim them to size to fit the card blank, but I knew these little bits would come in handy, plus they were pink and I was planning on making the butterfly pink. So the Millennium, that's a sticker. This is the bit of scrap lace that I knitted, and remember it had the hole so I can use it. The lace pattern is there, but it kind of fades into the background. So the knitting is giving it a nice texture. You can still see the black, and look, even though I covered it up, let's see, I'll put it up close to the camera, you can still see the little bits of pink peeking through. That little bit of white, that's fine because you've got a lot of white there. I don't need to cover that up. The fabrics rolls, they're the eye pins for jewellery. That was from a piece of wallpaper sample. I cut it out, I inked it with pink ink, and that was a sticker. So I'm very happy with how it turned out, and it's a great recycling project. So see, that was a scrap bit of wallpaper. This was from a sample swatch where the lace wasn't working right and the stitches were falling off. So it hasn't been wasted. I did cut the edge there. As you can see, it's fine. It's not unraveling. If it does unravel through years of use on a wall, which I doubt, it would be fine. This edge I've left soft, and that edge I've put the glue on so that it's hard. So it's quite sensory as well, because you've got the different textures. The knitting here is hard, so it's definitely, that knitting ain't going anywhere. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how this has turned out today. Let me know what you think, and I hope that you blend your crafts together. There's no rules. There's absolutely no rules that say you cannot take one of your knitted swatches that went wrong and use it with your mixed media projects. Thank you for watching. And if you would like to see more videos combining different crafts, please like and subscribe. Thank you.